Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of my review of the new Dark Elf book. So in this section we're going to be looking at the core choices and what to take, what not to take, and how to use each of the units effectively. Now, so Dark Elves have a pretty solid amount of choices. You have 6 choices. So you have the Repeater Crossbows, the Witch Elves, the Black Orc Corsairs, the Dark Riders, and then the Spearmen slash Swordmen. I just grouped those two together because they perform the same role. Now, before we get into each specific unit, I'd like to address what role does core play. So in a lot of armies, it's really seen as a 25% tax. That you have to take these guys that are subpar and don't really fit any role, but you have to take it. A couple of orcs and goblins and ogres have pretty solid core, but everyone is usually taking min core when it comes to elves. And what happens here is, in the Dark Elf army, I think really your special choices are going to be your bread and butter fighters. They're the ones you're going to lean on to win combats. So what role does that leave for core? So what is it that your core can do that your special can achieve, and how can they complement your overall lists? So these are a couple of questions that we're going to keep in mind when we do this review. So I think the top core choice in this list are the Repeater Crossbows. Now, I know ballistic skill shooting is kinda dead this edition, but I really see a role for these guys. Now, they have the option to take shields, and one unit can take a magic banner up to 25 points. And I see myself taking units of 14 of these, so in 7x2 formation. I like 7 wide with 25 or 20 millimeter bases because if any other block charges you, all 7 guys get to attack. And 14 attacks with always strikes first and rerolling ones to wound will do some damage against any type of chaff unit that might charge these guys. And I would take multiple units of these, and I would give one the Flaming Banner just to take off potential regens off of monsters or a unit and let your other units pepper them. So the big question is, why take crossbows? Well, Dark Elves, at least the infantry, are very, very vulnerable to other people shooting. So what you see a lot is toughness 3 with a 5-up armor, and sometimes you can get a ward save in there. I mean, Witch Elves don't even have an armor save, but they have access to ward save via the Cauldron. I mean, unless you're running Knights and Chariots, you're really going to be pretty fragile. So that's where crossbows come in. So crossbows can be used to counter shoot. So the idea here is that you take out your opponent's shooting as soon as possible to keep your very fragile guys alive. So that means shooting at the other people's archers, because enough archer shots will do damage, shooting at people's skirmishers, and also shooting war machines. Yes, you're only wounding war machines on 6, but the Repeater Crossbow is relatively good at that because of the pure volume of shots. So with a unit of 14, you get 28 shots. 28 shots shooting a war machine, you're probably hitting on 5s or 6s. So you might only get 1 or 2 wounds through, but if you get lucky, you can probably do 3 wounds in 1 round of shooting or 2 rounds of shooting and take out a war machine completely. So that helps a lot, and that's really the role that I see these guys playing. Just counter shooting to ensure that your weak and vulnerable guys stay alive until they get into combat, where they can absolutely wreck things. So again, I recommend units of 14 with Banner and Musician, and I would give one unit the Flaming Banner. I don't particularly recommend the shields. I don't think it's worth the extra point. I'd rather just have more bodies, but it's not the most useless upgrade. It can be useful in certain situations. So I really, really like crossbows, and that would be my top recommendation. Now, this might create some controversy because obviously the Witch Elves move back to core, and I think maybe people think that Witch Elves are awesome. I think Witch Elves are good, and they have their place. So just to give you an idea, they're regular core, but they've got Poison and Frenzy. So with 2 hand weapons, you're looking at 3 attacks apiece. With poison and also re-rolling ones to wound. So strength 3 is still not great. They also have high 1+ initiative, so they have initiative 6, which means they're going to be re-rolling hits against other things, primarily things like dryads or other characters. So that comes into play as well. But I think these guys are glass hammers, obviously. They don't have access to an armor save. They do get ward saves if you put them in the unit with the Cauldron, which I'll discuss in a bit. I think you should be running these guys at multiples of 7. So obviously the minimum unit size is 10 plus. But so I'd be looking at units of 14, 21, 28, and you keep going from there. Now, ideally, they make really good candidates for being Cauldron pushers because they get the 5 ward save from the Cauldron plus an extra attack. So if you get a unit of, if you get a horde of these guys and put it in the Cauldron, you're getting 4 attacks from the front rank if you get that bounce spell from the Cauldron off. So that's really useful. Now, the issue that I have with Witch Elves is, yes, they are fighty infantry, but our special infantry is better at fighting. I think I would take Blackguard over Witch Elves any day. Yes, they are more points and they come out of special, but I think they are better fighters with the Strength 4. Because the issue with Strength 3 is someone is going to run a unit of Mournfangs or Demigryphs or any other type of cav or monstrous cav into this unit, and they're not going to be able to do anything. Strength 3, barring getting a Mind Razor off, but that's if Mind Razor on anything is amazing, so I don't think that's a valid argument. Strength 3 is not going to kill anything. You will not get anything with armor, that is. You will bounce off of Bretonnian Knights, Mournfangs, or other big monsters. It's not going to do anything, and I don't think you should be relying on your combat effectiveness from these guys. I really think your specials are better. And then there's the whole other issue of frenzy, so they can be frenzy baited and they're not as controllable or reliable. That may or may not. There are ways around that. It just depends on, I guess, your meta and whether you face a lot of redirectors. But yeah, Witch Elves are good, but I'm not too keen on them. I would be looking at other choices from core. And again, mostly it's because I would rely on Blackguard and Executioners as my killy infantry. And I'm looking for core to support. So it all comes back to how can your core support the rest of your army, and I'm not looking for core to kill things. So that's why I'm not going to be using Witch Elves in my games. But that doesn't mean that they can't be used effectively. Now, the other option to Witch Elves are Corsairs. So Corsairs get the new Sea Dragon Cloak, which gives you a 5-up scaly skin. Combine that with light armor, means these guys are your core with a 4+ armor save. So they start at 9 points, and for an extra 2 points, you can either give them 2 hand weapons or the repeater handbow. I would never really bother with the repeater handbow. If you want shooting, just take more crossbows. The 2 hand weapons can be useful, but it really depends on how you use them. So the best way of running these guys, I think, is as a bunker unit. You take a unit of 20, you give them full command. I think in this case the champion is useful because you're going to be hiding your level 4 in there with the sacrificial dagger, and you give them the standard of discipline. So the champion can challenge out something that charges in there to make sure that you minimize the number of wounds you take, and also to make sure that your your level 4 isn't being challenged out. So a unit of 20 with a level 4 with the sacrificial dagger and the standard of discipline means that you've got leadership 10 in your army, and you've got 20 wounds to poke at with your sacrificial dagger. So I think that's probably the best use for these guys. You can use them as a fighting unit. In this case, I'll give them 2 hand weapons and deploy them 7 wide, again, just to maximize attacks. I really like 7 wide with 20mm bases. I would go at least 28 strong, and again, go with multiples of 7 beyond that. The advantages they have is they will have as many attacks as Spearmen, but they are more expensive this way. But they do get the 4-up save, which also makes them if you are looking for fighting from your core, it makes them alternative to Witch Elves. They're not as killy, but they will survive more. So you get that trade-off, and you don't have to worry about frenzy. So I think they are a reasonable alternative to Witch Elves in fighting. Yeah. But it really all comes down to what you expect. So I think, again, the best way to use them is as a bunker. Now, Dark Riders. I think Dark Riders got a big boost this edition because now they can take shields and keep their fast cav rules. So I think This is the only fast cav unit that I am aware of that has a 4-up armor save and still has the fast cav rule. They're movement 9, which makes them ideal war machine hunters. I think every list should include 1 or 2 units of 5 or 6 guys with shields just to hunt war machines. With the Vanguard move, they can be up on the center line before turn 1. And then on turn 1 they can move up another 18 inches, which means that if you could charge turn 1 if you don't get first turn. If you do get first turn, you will be charging war machines turn 2, which can be very useful. You don't want to get catapulted, or if you have lots of monsters in your list, you don't want to get cannon. So I think these guys are important in every list. I think if you're running a monster mash list that's vulnerable to other people's artillery, I would almost fill up your core with Dark Riders. I think a couple of units, then I think 4 or 5 units could be used as redirectors, war machine hunters, and allow you to pick your fights with your monsters. So I think these guys are invaluable, and it's almost a 1+, maybe 2+ in bigger games, and it really depends on your meta or what you're fighting. I would not bother with the crossbows. Yes, you can dance around units and just shoot everyone, but I think if you want to shoot stuff and dance around people, I think Shays in special are a better choice, or regular repeater crossbows from your core section are probably a better choice. But yeah, a big plus to Dark Riders with shields. 4+ armor, a fast cav, war machine hunters is hard to top. Then Spearmen and Swordsmen. They can take a magic banner, but I actually would avoid these guys. They don't do anything particularly well. They're the same points as Corsairs without any upgrades, but Corsairs have a 4-up armor instead of a 5-up, which gives them a better bunker, that is. And yeah, I really have no use for these guys. If you want to hold stuff up, I think Corsairs are better. If you want to fight stuff with your core, obviously Witch Elves are better. They don't fill the niche of crossbows or fast cav. So I think if you have these guys laying around, convert them to more crossbows. I think that's probably the best thing you can do with them. You won't see me running these guys. So in summary, I really like repeater crossbows because of the role they fill, just to counter shoot to make sure that your guys don't get shot to death, and also to get rid of any chaff, or redirectors. That it's very important to get rid of redirectors with repeater crossbows, because you do not want to get frenzy baited with your cauldron. Dark Riders also fit a niche role. They're going to be your go-to war machine hunters, and also redirectors if there's a unit that you don't want to fight, or you can sacrifice a unit, put it in front of somebody else's cauldron of blood, or the Skaven, what's it called? Not the Screaming Bell, but the other one, the Plague Furnace. So you can sacrifice those units if you need to. I think Witch Elves are good fighters, but I'm going to be relying on my special choices to kill things. So again, I'm looking for my core to do very special things. Either the crossbows or the Dark Riders really fit those niche roles. Witch Elves are very useful. They can be frenzy baited, but they're going to murder the crap out of everything, especially if you put them in the cauldron. It gives them the extra boost with the 5-up ward save and an additional attack. So that's pretty good. Corsairs are a viable alternative, so you're trading off defense for offense, or you're trading off offense for defense there, and you're not going to get frenzy baited. I think the best way to use them is as a 20-man bunker with no upgrades, or no extra hand weapons or crossbows, but full command and the standard of discipline. So you got leadership 10 for your mage. Those are going to be your go-to wounds for your sacrificial dagger. And I would just avoid spearmen and swordmen like the plague. I don't think they do anything, and yeah, I really see no role for them in this army. So that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something. And let me know if you agree or disagree with anything I've said. Alright, bye.